This is my terrarium that I made out of a spaghetti sauce jar, so stick around if you want to see how I did it. So I had this sauce jar and I really wanted to do something with it. I don't know why, I just saw it and I thought that would make an interesting terrarium, and it's low budget so accessible for everyone. The first thing I did was get my mixture of substrate for my drainage layer, which is mostly lava rock, akadama, and various other bonsai soils that I use for plants and other things. I added about 1 inch of this to create the drainage layer, just so water isn't sitting in the soil and sogging it down too much. This is 100% one of the most important parts of creating a terrarium, so make sure you do this part right. The next step was cutting out drainage screen to place over the drainage layer so our substrate doesn't fall down into the pebbles. Here's the screen in place in my sauce jar, and as you can see, it's going to effectively block out all the substrate. Next, I use sphagnum moss right above the substrate screen so I can pull up some of that moisture and hold it directly under the substrate layer. Now, you don't necessarily need sphagnum moss, but it really is unmatched when it comes to holding in that moisture and humidity for a terrarium, so if you happen to have some on hand, I definitely recommend that you add it. For my main substrate, I'm just using this mixture of peat moss, which is dry, but we'll wet it down here in a minute. And here I'm spraying down that sphagnum to make sure it's nice and moist before we really start adding in our plants and other substrate layers. Next thing I did was pick out some nice moss, just pulling out selections from what we've had on hand and picked up from around the yard. I really like moss, so this is one of my favorite parts of building a terrarium, and you can kind of mix and match which varieties you'd like to go in the tank, so that's cool. Now here's the terrarium with all the moss planted up inside. As you can see, I've got a slight gradient going towards the back to give it some depth. It looks really cool with that moss built up in our different layers of soil. That soil gradient really improves the look in my opinion. Now this is just some money wort that I had on hand, and I'm really just going to cut off a few little pieces, hope that they propagate inside the terrarium, but I just want to add little accent plants along with that moss to give some texture and color variation within the terrarium. So here I am cutting off those pieces, and here it is with the money wort inside. I think this makes a really nice accent plant, and I really like the way it contrasts with the green of the moss. There's a ton of different terrarium plants you can get like this, and it really lets you add some personality and character to your terrarium. And here's mine done with all the planting. Next, I wanted to do some hardscape just to give it something extra, so I found a stick I liked, then I found a little rock that I liked. Now this is totally up to you how much hardscaping you do in your terrarium, but it lets you customize it, so kind of just do what feels right and what you think looks good. Here's my sauce jar terrarium finished up, fully planted. Really happy with the way this came out, and for just being a sauce jar, I think it actually looks pretty cool. Let me know if this inspires you and if you'd like to see more videos like this.